Great, Andrew, eh?
It is.
Told you so.
Weigh, Highland Way.
Yeah, I did it. Dyslexic me, I did it round the other way. Andrew and I, we've been friends on the internet forever.
Yeah.
But this first meeting, so I'm delighted to meet you after all this time, Andrew. And I think you've been involved in music even longer than I have.
Well, in music itself, I started writing songs when I was 12.
Yeah. 12.
Yeah, and I started at it, well, I'm 68, so I started playing professionally, for a living when I was 20, so that's a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of your story. I think the love of the song's really the start of the story, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my mother sang me, she sang off key, and my mother couldn't tap a rhythm, but she loved songs and poetry, and she sang in the cradle. She sang me I Ride No Paint, which is still one of my favorite songs. I Gave My Love a Charity, which I still sing those. And The Cruel Mother, about the mother who killed her baby, she also sang.
Yeah, that's going to put you on edge.
Yeah.
How about Burns? Did you sing any Burns songs?
Well, she loved To a Mouse. She didn't sing any Burns songs.
No.
I would have been about a year and a half when my parents acquired Ewan McCall sings songs of Robert Burns.
All right.
We had 4 or 5 McCall recordings. That's Scott's. So Scott's songs came over the Atlantic.
Yeah.
I never got into like rock and roll and like my peers. I just loved that stuff.
So you went straight to folk music.
Yeah. And then the blues, Mississippi John Hurt, and was in the Cotton. All those things.
Yeah. Well, the stories and the songs came from this part of the world in a great many occasions. Some of the tunes are the same. Basically, they're fiddle tunes here, guitar tunes in the Appalachians.
Yeah.
Was that something you got aware of early on?
Yeah, I always loved ballads. Big story songs. So, sometimes when you just talk about music, the novelist Joseph Conrad was a huge influence on me, and painters also. You go to an art exhibit and you see the world differently afterwards. It's hard to put into words how it affects your music, but it does.
So, I would like to at least touch on Waterbug. The influence that label has had on folk music, not just the plethora of artists that you help get going in their career, but actually the concept of an artist-led community label. I can't think of another one that was up and running as early as yours was for the wider folk community. I don't think I can.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
No.
Well,
I kind of.
During the 80s, I thought, what has happened to the songwriters? I just wasn't hearing anything. I wasn't hearing anything. Have they all gone into software or something? I just wasn't hearing anything. And then I went to the Kerrville Festival in 1990, and heard Cat Eggleston, Steve Fisher, that first
in
year,
the hill country of
I
Texas.
I felt like I found my tribe. And then the next year, Michael McNevin was there. People don't know his name. There's nothing like his songs. They're like Monet paintings or something. And there's 3 levels, and they're all working at once on you. Endlessly listenable, absolutely brilliant writer from California. And I would meet 2 or 3 new brilliant writers every year there, And I remember in '92, I was putting together a collection which I called American Impressionist Songwriters. And we did two volumes of those. And when I did it, nobody but me had anything on CD. So nobody had 2 nickels really. And the labels then that were established were not interested in people starting out. They wanted people who had a tour schedule and a following already. Well, how do you get there from here?
Exactly.
So How you get there from here is, well, I mean, I was doing an album. My first album was called Hope, and then this collection. And I was at Cozy Sheridan with the Criminal, and we started talking. And she was doing an album. Well, put it on my label, you know. The distributors were looking for a flow of product. And, you know, I couldn't fund a flow of product, but many of us could fund our own project. And so we ended up getting national distribution for the flow of product.
Yes.
It made us look like we were bigger than we were. But, I mean, the folk DJs loved us because it was strictly on quality.
It was.
And they loved, so, you know, radio promotion costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if people were on Waterbug, the DJs would open the package and play it.
Yeah.
So that was worth something right there.
That's what happened with me. I think I became aware of Waterbug through one or two artists that you'd already helped. When I took over, that's 30 years I've been broadcasting now.
Yeah.
No, 20 years.
Yeah.
Radio broadcasting.
Yeah.
And whenever the label with the Waterbug came in through the door, it was, okay, there's a whole show here.
Yeah.
And it was always excellent.
I look back and just two names come up. I mean, there were a lot of wonderful artists, but Kate McLeod from Salt Lake City, you know, that was 95 in Washington, D.C. I was with the Folk Alliance.
Yeah.
I could sign people by the way they say hello. Literally. Because they're not insecure or looking to please. They know who they are and they say hello. It's like, remember when Erin Corday walked up? I didn't know who she was. I almost said you want to be on the label. So her and well, that year I saw Dan Byrne again. He was an old friend of mine, and I mean, he was on a bigger label.
Who's that out and about
Dan
with?
Byrne and Kate McLeod came up to the booth. I think it was the last day I was there,
Yeah.
and she'd gotten a grant. You know, single mother with 3 kids, and she got a grant from some folk association in Utah, the 10th Folk Alliance.
Yeah.
And she hands me your record. She leans forward and says, "Listen to it, it's good." And I looked at the back, and there was a song by Gene Ritchie, and I just got a chill down my back.
Yeah.
And I put that one and Erin Corday's tape and Dan Byrne's in my bag to carry home, and I shipped the other 60 CDs home.
Nice.
I ended up signing Erin and Kate. You
Nice.
know, and Kate's been able to make a career.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
subtle,
And so
beautiful songs.
so many other people as well. So
And Anais Mitchell, you know.
I know.
She's on Broadway,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was great.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Art Thien was a great traditional Midwestern folk singer.
Yeah.
And he was an early supporter of mine. He really helped me out when I was this wild songwriter in his teens, you know, in the sort of folk establishment in Chicago.
Yeah.
They were not accepting me. I mean, this guy's good, you know.
you had an authenticity. You also had a solid bass, respected bass, but you had that kind of edge of rebellion about the label as well, didn't you?
Yeah. It's so funny. I was seen as this iconoclastic songwriter, and then suddenly I was seen as this old folk
I want to explore that because now you are.
I know I am. I've gotten way into it. My last song I wrote, I don't write a lot now.
Yeah.
It's called I'm a Folk Singer.
Nice.
And I wrote it because I was looking at YouTube and it was Dylan Goes Electric at Newport. And somebody said, oh, he got wise to that whole folk thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He is that folk thing, no matter what instrument he's playing. You know. So, yeah, people think of folk as a genre, and
it's music, man.
It's ancestral energy. It's history. It's all those things. And when you let it be, oh, it's a sound. You're just lost. You know.
It's the oldest profession. The troubadour, which brings it into the medieval.
Yeah.
It's the oldest profession on the planet.
Yeah.
That other one that everybody says is the oldest one was just something that adhered itself to the folk tradition. I mean, that's why it's so important. It's generational.
Well, all indigenous cultures have this way of ritual connection to the ancestors, and we don't have enough of it. And folk songs carry that energy.
So when you come back, and you're going to come back, you're saying there'll be another year. I'll take you out to Clava Cairns, which is a Bronze Age, Neolithic Bronze Age manifestation of what we're talking about. Really, it's just out the road here near Culloden, and we'll have a look round and I'll show you how that all worked. Okay. If they weren't singing songs there, I don't know. It was all going on. So we're talking to Andrew Calhoun. We're in the Highland Way here in Nairn, and it's a flying visit. And apologies if you can't hear us. When we started this, it was quieter, but I think it'll be fine. There's folks listening, there's folks with us. So, by way of explanation, it being a flying visit, you're in Nairn. You were in Inverness for
Kareen
Polwarth's show last night. Now, the connection with Kareen and the Highlands and Scotland in general is a deep-rooted connection for yourself as well, isn't it? Through the poetry of Robbie Burns. How did that story start?
Well, in general, I just love Scott's songs. Big ballads, lyrical songs. I just love them. And I've sung them since I was young. And Hamish Henderson, The Banks of Sicily.
Ah, jeez.
Freedom Kamali. Actually, it's taken me about 30 years to come up with English translations of those. Just so Americans can know what he's talking about. I want to give you a connection. This show, I do a spiritual called City of Babylon, which is collected in New Orleans. If by a City of Babylon, your kingdom must come down. And then I do the Freedom Kamali by Hamish, which was written in 1960. Black and white, one to the other married, make the vile barracks of their masters bare. And I talk about You a Man's a Man for all that, of which there are 6 better versions, which his editors have refused to share with you. I am so angry about this.
I think they're quite...
All of them. And they were sent to chapbooks and newspapers to be published anonymously because they would cost Robert Burns his government job and possibly got him sent to Botany Bay like Thomas Muir. I mean, he was really under that threat of sedition. And all these other versions, they're humbler, they're more radical. They don't say a prince can make a belt at night. They say the king can make a belt at night, but an honest man above his might.
Nice. Yeah.
That's
sedition.
That's sedition. It was sedition. So
even in a constitutional monarchy or something that was presented as a constitutional monarchy, that is that you can be hung for that.
Sent off to hard labor, and he had children. I mean, he had to be careful first. So Frederick Douglass escaped from slavery, I think 1838.
Who did?
Frederick Douglass.
I don't know that name.
He's a great abolitionist.
Okay. He was he not from Chicago as well?
One of the slave narratives.
Yeah.
And
he came and talked around Scotland as well.
He came and talked in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, after he escaped from slavery, he somehow learned to read, which was against the law for slaves to learn to read.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they couldn't read. They just didn't want them to.
Yeah. You're right.
The history is just so brutal. Yeah. But Douglass acquired the works of Robert Burns, right when he escaped, and he would quote him in his speeches. And he went to visit Isabel Begg, Burns's youngest sister was surviving, visited her in 1843, I think. And the following year, he was addressing a Burns supper in Rochester, New York. And he said, he told about visiting her, and he said, but ladies and gentlemen, this is not a time for lengthy speeches. I do not wish to, whatever it was, take up your time on this occasion. I do not wish to detain you from the social pleasures that await you on this occasion.
That's great.
But let me repeat that although I am not a Scotchman and have a colored skin, I am proud to be among you this evening. And if anyone think me out of place on this occasion, let me place the blame at the door of the man who taught me that a man's a man for all
that. Oh man, Rick, the spine
so
and
things connect.
Yes, they do.
They connect.
Yeah. I just went up my spine.
As far as me and Burns and all this research, I was asked by my local DJ in Glen Ellen, Illinois, Billy Kuzma, to do a set of Burns songs on his birthday in 2015.
Yeah.
Well, I knew some Burns songs. I learned from other singers and so on.
Yeah.
And since I'd become a researcher, actually from researching the black music, you know, that's another story.
Yeah, big
But
story.
I thought, well, the Lynn Records, Fred Freeman had produced 13-volume complete Burns songs on Lynn Records. There's no such thing as the complete Burns songs. You'll still be finding more in 100 years.
Probably with Hamish Henderson as well, but that's another story too. Yeah, very cool. So,
I buy this, you know, I'm listening through all these songs, and there on volume 8 is Mae McKenna singing A Fond Kiss, and it's his original tune. Don't I know the original tune? I learned this from Gene Redpath recording, and I've been singing it for 30 years, and everybody else sings it. And this tune, I was on the floor by the end of it.
Oh man.
And her singing is incredible. And
who was singing it?
Mae McKenna.
Mae McKenna. Scottish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic singer.
Yeah.
Pitch perfect. And the repeat of A Fond Kiss, which is the 6th verse, comes back on the B part of the melody. It's a 2-part melody at a higher pitch of intensity.
Yeah.
Now, why would anyone have replaced this melody? One part, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but Burns wrote it to this melody. He wrote to melody.
Yeah.
And he played fiddle. And we have a letter, and he says, I cannot compose until I have mastered the melody in my own singing, such as it is. He played the fiddle. He had a vast collection of tune books.
Yeah.
He was serious about writing to melody.
Yeah.
So...
And was it his own melody? This
No,
original?
they were all
found,
they were
weren't they?
melodies by the great tunesmiths of Scotland,
Yeah.
James Oswald, Neil Gow,
Yeah.
William McGibbon. He had James Aird's books. Nothing's been written about his connection with James Aird, who had a little shop in Glasgow and published. You know, Burns had 4 of his books, and after Oswald, he wrote the most tunes from James Aird's books.
Yeah.
The Weavers Didn't Go, lots of those. There was a series of tradesmen's marches, and he wrote tunes to many of them. And Burns would often take the title of a tune as the subject of the song, like The Gardener We Is Padle is written to the Gardener's March, so on. So, if you've heard half dozen Burns songs in your life, the chances are you haven't heard any of them sung to the tune he wrote it to.
Yeah.
And all of them they're not only better, they're extremely better.
So this
they are heart-stopping.
this brings me to your quest, and your quest brings you to Nairn and this conversation.
Yeah.
And the quest in my head, and we've talked a couple of times about it, only twice, two times about it, but in my head, you're on a quest to write in the way of making something right.
Yeah.
Fake news from 250 years ago.
That's absolutely correct. Now,
That's quite a...
what's odd with the scholarship, even everyone who screwed it up has helped me understand it. They've all helped somewhat. None of Burns's musical editors have an ounce of songcraft.
So
they don't understand songwriting.
Right, at that point, was this a musical editor who Burns knew himself in his lifetime, or were these people that came along with the Burns idea?
Burns' first fame was as a poet.
Yeah.
But his first lyric was written as a song.
Okay, and which one?
What is that lyric?
Don't worry.
I love the last, Handsome Nell, I love the last.
Oh, yeah.
And we actually have the tune, you know.
Yeah.
He was on the verge of, he was in trouble with the law because he impregnated Jean Armour, whose parents did not like this impoverished farmer who was basically anti-Calvinist punk.
Of course, he was a Jacobite in the middle of Calvinist era, wasn't he? Or his dad was Jacobite then.
Yeah. His sympathy was there. But, so he was, I mean, at one point he was staying on relatives' couches and worried about being put in debtor's prison. And he published his book of poems to raise money for passage to Jamaica.
That's right.
Where he had a job
I knew
as
that
a
much.
bookkeeper. Meaning he would have been whipping people on a plantation. He would have been dead within 2 or 3 months. He just couldn't have done that. He managed to miss the boat 3 times. He had booked passage. But to raise money for passage, he published a book of poems locally. I mean, he had his fans because he would pass his poems around. And he printed this book, and the Kilmarnock edition really is read as a farewell to Scotland. It really reads that way. And it was like John Prine's first record. Everybody was in love. And the power of that book, you know, it sold out 600 copies in this sparse area within 3 months. And he got a review in Edinburgh from Henry Mackenzie, who was one of the leading literary lights.
And he
borrowed a pony and rode to Edinburgh. He was a Mason, and he was presented by the Masonic gentry as Brother Burns, Caledonia's bard. Bard of old Scotland.
And this is Edinburgh at the height of its Renaissance and at the height of its Enlightenment. And so he was introduced directly into the intellectual company of that time.
Dougald Stewart. Sir Walter Scott. You know, Sir Walter Scott met Burns when he was 15, and they impressed each other, you know.
Oh, wow.
Burns' dirty little secret is that he was an intellectual. He loved to read. He was always with a book.
But he wasn't trained, was he? He didn't get to university or come out with anything.
He's an incredible story because he's such a bridge between literate and oral tradition. I mean, he crossed all these barriers. But he, you know, hardworking farm family. And there was I remember I read his biography, and it was so familiar. It was a credit crash, you know, and his father's struggling. And they were not the poorest people. They were not,
they had lost land, hadn't they? They were on a decline.
Well,
he was
his father was a gardener, which in America we call a landscaper. And he worked in Edinburgh for somebody, and his family was broken up after the Jacobite rebellion, and he parted from his brother and everything, and there's pain there, you know. And he was older. He went down and he met Agnes Brun, spirited young woman at a fair. I think she was 26 and he was close to 40. And Burns was their first child. They had 7 children. They just had a couple of farms with fairly bad land, and William Burness was his name. His health started to break down, and Robert was the chief laborer on the farm when he was 15. And they think he strained his heart at the time, which they think is what he died of. He was slandered right after he died as like he drunk himself to death, which is absolutely not true. I mean, he was a rogue with women, but he was also a responsible family man.
So let me pull you back to the question that I asked
About the music itself. Yeah, this story is. I start
particularly about his relationship with the editors of his songs, which I think is the crux of what the problem lies.
His book, he sold the copyright to the second edition of his book.
Yeah.
For enough money to get his whole family out of debt, buy a farm, and marry Jean.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. He was a celebrity.
Yeah.
In Edinburgh, but he knew he was a passing fad, which I don't know how he had that kind of wisdom at 26. He wasn't puffed up by it. He wrote to a friend and said, "Be my witness. I know I'm not a fashion." And the literati of Edinburgh were trying to get him to write Augustan English verse, which is like
no, we'll stick with it. Yeah.
He really struck a blow for the Scottish language.
He did, and that was at a time when Westminster and the parliaments had just joined, or Scotland had sold itself out to get out of debt.
Yeah.
And Westminster didn't want Scotland to be anything; they wanted it to be Northern Britain.
Exactly.
And he stopped that, basically.
If you don't have an identity, you don't have anything worth fighting for. Yeah. You might as well be English or anything else. I was at an open mic in Perth for 3 hours. I heard nothing but American songs.
I know.
And you can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm new in this country. I don't do lecturing people. It's like, if you don't play your own music, you're not going to have a country.
Yeah.
Plus, your music is better. I'm sorry, the melodies are better.
Beautiful.
The songs are magnificent.
This is off piste a little bit, but I went to and this happens every year in Nick Drake's hometown. There was a Nick Drake festival where everybody was invited, to sing 2 Nick Drake songs in the church where his funeral was held and where he was baptized. It was beautiful. But afterwards, this is just a human trait that I'd noticed. Everybody was sat around the campfire, lovely night, but we were all singing Bob Dylan songs.
Yeah.
So, we can be forgiven, please, for singing American songs.
Singing Bob Dylan songs. You can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
So
how did his songs get picked up by charlatans?
He wrote a letter to Dr. John Moore as his autobiography. It's a fantastic letter. And he said, my life wanted an aim. I just couldn't find a direction.
Right.
His aim was songwriting, which he would never accept a penny for. He always worked for a living, farming, and then he worked for the excise.
Yeah.
And in fact, he had a second publisher, George Thompson, who was, offered to pay him. And he said it would be sodomy of soul to accept money for songwriting. That's what I do for love, So, he met James Johnson in Edinburgh.
James Johnson,
who was the publisher of the Scots Musical Museum, and he had invented a process of printing with pewter that was cheaper, and he was the main printer of music in Scotland had been for about 30 years. And he was, a working class guy, and they hit it off. And the musical editor was Stephen Clark, a church organist from Durham, England.
Right.
Who thought he needed to improve the works of the great Scots tunesmiths. That's my estimation. He was one of these mediocre hacks who needs to make it his own.
Yeah. Now, were they skimming?
I'll give you one example.
Yeah, go on then.
So Burns spoke highly of his taste, and he was sort of a cheerleader just to keep the project going. It was supposed to be 200 songs, of which there were about 200 popular song melodies. Burns became the shadow editor, became a collector, and he would write lyrics to tunes that had never had lyrics. And they expanded to 600 songs. That's a Scots Musical
Is that right? As much as that? Jeez.
So that's what he did. And then in like 92, George Thompson wrote him, and he was doing something for a much more upscale audience. I'll go over this thing with you about what George Thompson was like, but we still on?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got an audience, and I'm talking to Andrew Calhoun.
I want to give you one line which will represent the corruption of the songs. So, my love is like a red, red rose.
Yeah.
That was actually a cobble of various traditional images that Burns put together with a tune by Neil Gow called Major Graham. And we have his manuscript. It was online at the British Library. I don't know, they were hacked. I don't know if it's still online at the moment, but it's public domain. And he said the tune is on page 6 of Gow's first book of Strasbourg Reels.
Yeah.
And there it is. And you're supposed to repeat the A part. There's a repeat time. Stephen Clark, the musical editor, did not repeat the A part, so it's supposed to cover the second verse. And he just left the fourth verse sitting outside of the stand so nobody could make sense of it. And he also changed the first line of the melody. He didn't like the starting songs on and off the scale, so he corrected it to start on the 1. So what he printed was, oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Rose in Gow's score is a grace note from which it leaps an octave. It's the only leap of an octave from a grace note I've seen in all of that fiddle music.
Okay.
So the rose itself is supposed to spring.
Yes.
That's what Burns does with melody. And here's how that's supposed to go. Oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly
yodeling.
It's
beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, my love's like the melody that's sweetly played in tune.
That's got the accent on it. Yeah, beautiful.
So you multiply that by 300, and that's how many tunes
That's the same.
corrupted.
Yeah. Okay.
I have at this point about.
So you're trying to decipher all of this.
I'm simply not thinking I'm smarter than anybody,
No.
and I'm following Burns's intent.
Yeah.
And I'm trusting that he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm finding the tunes he wrote to, and I'm translating them literally. It's anti-creative. It's trusting him.
Yeah.
There's nothing to add. There's nothing to improve on.
So what's okay?
Except
Before
something about
okay,
Burns.
go on, please.
He was a terrible reviser of his own songs. So his early drafts and copies he sent to his friends are better than the ones he would write out. I don't know if he trusted his memory too much or what, but okay, you know the famous song, which people call Scots Swahili.
Yeah. Supposedly written at the Murray Arms, where in Gators of Fleet, where I went to school. There's a plaque on the wall that he wrote in it. Could be loads of stories. Anyway, supposedly.
Anyway,
sorry,
would
Scots
you call Sounds of Silence Hello Darkness My?
Yeah.
Or would you call Woodstock I Came Upon? Burns' title is Robert Bruce's March to Bannockburn, or
Okay.
Robert Bruce's Address to His Troops. Why don't people use his titles?
Yeah.
They dismiss his titles.
Local
I'm
politics.
pissed, Rob.
Yeah.
So, there's a verse in there, and this is the copy he sent to his pretentious second publisher.
Right.
Pompous
Was he
Lyrics.
getting money back from his publisher?
No, he refused
was getting
money,
nothing.
But Burns was just empathic without a filter. So he sent this guy what he liked. I mean, he was just like that.
Yeah.
Not that he was a pushover, he wasn't at all, but he was working with this man to get his songs out, and you know, he certainly did get his songs out.
Yeah. I suppose we wouldn't have any legacy if that wasn't the legacy.
He worked with people.
Yeah. Interesting. So let me stop you there.
So I want to give you this verse from the early draft of Scots Swahili with Wallace Bled.
Yeah.
The one he sent to the publisher, you know, this man's trying to inspire his troops to fight to the death.
Yes.
By oppression's woes and pains, by your sons in servile chains. We will drain our dearest veins, but they shall be free. Are you inspired that you're a grunt by servile chains? What are servile chains?
It's freedom.
It's crap.
Yeah.
Here's the early draft, and it's in the Lilly Library in Bloomington, Indiana.
So this is instead of servile chains.
This is the early draft.
Yeah.
Do you hear your children cry? Were we born in chains to lie? No. Come death or liberty. Yes, they shall be free.
Yeah. Oh, it's more succinct.
I'm ready to fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have maybe, I think, 66 songs where there are earlier versions.
Yeah.
And I prefer 65.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have 22 tunes which have never been published with this designated melody.
Okay.
So you've got Westland Winds, which has become very famous because Dick Coffin revived it.
Yeah.
With this, I mean, Dick Coffin's version of that song is it's about as good as a human being has ever done with an acoustic guitar. And Nick Jones kind of the idea of those.
I'm with you.
Sublime.
Yeah.
But he was never given access to Burns's melody. And it's never
Well, he would have picked up on the tradition.
It's never been printed with the lyric.
Yeah.
And it was written to a tune called I Had a Horse and I Had Me Mare, which was a humorous ballad about adultery, which was printed in Scott's Musical Museum. It was number 185.
Yeah.
They would not reprint a melody. This is key.
Yeah.
Scott's Musical Museum would not reprint a melody, which is why people think what is the original melody of Auld Lang Syne.
Oh no.
Say I have the original. It's not the original, it's a dummy.
Oh no.
The original was printed in the first volume, and that's a corruption of the original.
Oh no.
That discovery was the key to all my research. But I'll tell you that after I sing a little bit of I Had a Horse and I Had Me Mare.
Yeah.
His editors had decided as a group that he didn't like the original tune, and so he suggested this other tune called Port Gordon for it to be printed with. He wasn't permitted to use the original tune because it had already been published. Okay.
Yeah. So there's self-interest all over that.
In the 1993 edition of his poems, he made some changes, but he still had I Had a Horse and I Had Me Mare as the melody. It's his final preferred melody, okay? And there are moments in it which are like the rose. They completely match the imagery.
Yeah.
Now waving grain wide o'er the plain. The grain is waving.
Yeah.
And Burns does these effects usually on the subject, not on the adjective. It's very unsentimental. The thing is doing the action. It's very zen.
Yeah.
The rose is springing. He doesn't do the effect on,
there you go.
on the word spring.
Okay.
So, and let's sing this verse. Let's see. What part of it? Well, just the line is... Sportsman's joy, the murdering cry, the fluttering gory pinion. You've just seen the bird die and you feel it. It's fluttering down. It's the minor. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I have it on YouTube.
You have.
One wins.
Well, beautiful.
But Auld Lang Syne was my breakthrough.
Yeah.
And I've been at the songs for a couple of years, and I found the actual original tune of John Barleycorn.
Yeah.
I mean, Burns' John Barleycorn is beautiful, and nobody sings it because it was put with a very staid Elizabethan sounding melody in 1903. And in the notes, James Dick says, it might be this other tune called Stingo. And I look at the other tune, it's like, of course it's that tune. It rises, it holds 3 beats down and rises at the end of every cadence. And it's all about resurrection. The whole song is about the death and resurrection of the grain.
What a job you've got on your hands, man.
I can't believe it. I've been at this for 11 years.
11 years now.
Still turning over rocks.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the one that got me to Scotland.
All right, okay.
I got in an argument with Auld Lang Syne with a guy on Facebook. He's like, you don't even know if he wrote it to a tune. And it's like, people should sing it to the original tune. I know he wrote it to a tune. And so I start looking, and I'm looking in the 2018 Oxford edition in the notes, and it says, oh, Alan Ramsey's version of Auld Lang Syne. You know, he was 50 years before Burns, and very similar.
Alan
character.
Ramsey,
Yeah.
Scottish?
Yeah. He's very similar to
Poet,
Burns.
a poet in the Scots language?
He was a poet and songwriter, but he did a lot of parlory versions of traditional songs. But he also, the Tea Table Miscellany was this massive collection.
Was he an influence on Burns directly?
Yes, yeah, Burns loved his poetry. He wrote kind of a ballad opera called The Gentle Shepherd, which people revive sometimes. So the first book of Scottish songs that was printed with music, actually printed in London. William Thompson was a singer, and he published Alan Ramsey songs with music. And there's Alan Ramsey's lyric to Auld Lang Syne.
Okay.
So I looked, when I saw in this note that it was printed in volume 1, I looked at that melody, and there was the prosody I'd been missing, because...
It's a good word. Prosody, what's
prosody.
that?
Well,
Gonna have
in
to look that one up.
songwriting, it's been adopted as meaning the way the words and music go together.
Okay.
I called it impressionist songwriting.
Okay.
Those moments.
Yeah.
But I was writing an article about how Burns used prosody, and my dad was saying, we have to write about Auld Lang Syne because it was famous. I couldn't find it in there with the supposed original tune.
Okay.
But with this one, we've wandered many a weary foot in Auld Lang Syne. The foot is very weary. It's going to the bottom. Seas between us break a road. It's this perfect tune.
Yeah.
And so I looked up Orpheus Caledonius. The Library of Scotland put up all these tune books. I would have known there was a problem. And it's probably in the last 15 or 20 years that they went up. People like me never would have known. I mean, unless you had funding and could go into libraries and knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
You just accept that the tunes here are the tunes,
Yeah.
So Orpheus Caledonius has a simpler, more direct, perfect match for Burns' song, which he said he collected from an old man. And he obviously wrote a couple of the verses, but I saw that, and I saw that the musical editor had changed the B part, and it was kind of wandering, it wasn't as good. And I went, oh. And I researched every single song from that point on, and I had, I think it was 7 weeks. I got 4 hours sleep a night, and I'm going crazy. I'm weeping over the keyboard. There's a more beautiful tune to the Lee Rig. There's a more beautiful tune to Over the Water to Charlie. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And that was the beginning of my mania.
Your mania brings you here to Nairn. I'm talking to Andrew Calhoun. Folk music Svengali, I'm using that. Sorry. And ex-boss of Waterbug Music. We talked about that earlier on. If you just joined us on the stream just now, Andrew is on a quest to right the wrongs of misinterpretation of Burns' songs. Now, where do you want this to lead you?
Well,
your goal in all of this?
My goal is to find singers, particularly younger singers, who want to model these versions. Younger Scots singers.
Yes.
Who can sing these better than I can.
Yeah.
Who can model the correct versions of these songs.
Yeah.
And just reintroduce them. I think if a young singer could take 15 of these songs and do the better early drafts to that, then it would blow people's minds.
Okay, so you heard it, well, not first, but you certainly heard it here on IMTV. And if you know someone of that ilk with a fabulous Scots language voice,
Yeah.
A young Scots language voice
who can tell a story.
who would like to tell this story.
Classically trained.
What's the best way to get in touch with you, Andrew?
My email is andrew.e@calhoun@gmail.com.
Okay.
You can also get me through my website. I have a YouTube channel. I have 180 Burns songs up there.
You have already.
Yeah, Andrew Calhoun songs.
And
but I would love it if people would subscribe.
Are all those the original?
Well, everyone is a project. I mean, I thought I was done with this book. I had 413 songs scored. I had notes. I had an introduction.
So it's going to be a book as well. That's the other thing that.
It'll be a massive ebook, but I want a smaller print book.
Yeah.
Which is songs people actually sing. I mean, Burns wrote songs for local elections.
I know.
Which are many verses,
yes.
which nobody would really want to sing now.
No.
But, and they're interesting, but just songs. It's hard for people keep telling me, why don't you publish 50 songs? It's 12 because I'm still learning about them.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I would find better versions of A Man's a Man for All That.
Yes.
And then a better yet version, which doesn't even have the reference to a coward slave. It's 4 verses.
Is that
it's a so-called Teuton manuscript.
Yeah.
I have a long essay about how everything's been mishandled by the scholarship. I don't know if people are interested in it or not. And it almost gets a little toxic because, and I say these people all did more right than they did wrong. But he could have done better. There's this condescending, clubby assumption that Burns needed his by entitled academics like themselves. It's the assumption, and it carries through. Every time something's not working, they think he doesn't know what he was doing. It doesn't occur to them that some editor chose the wrong set of the tune.
Yeah.
When you find the right one, it goes. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, what got me here, I mean, there's a couple of things. I turned over a rock. There's something about learning each song which has made dramatic differences beyond what I ever would have expected. I mean, for one thing, early drafts just became a principle for me. And sometimes you look in collated footnotes in expensive scholarly editions that says, well, these 2 words are different. So whatever. You assume the one you wanted published is the one. But if you actually type those words in and sing them, you go, oh, these are better, The first draft of John Barleycorn has...
Which I thought was an English song.
It basically was, but Burns heard it sung. I mean, things passed around England to Scotland.
Yeah, and he's from the borders after all,
I don't know if this is true, and I need to talk to more people, but I really think that Scottish country dance broke up the spirit of Calvinism. There was just this oppressive cloud over everything for 100 years. Life was hell for 100 years. People judging their neighbors, and you've got Scottish country dance, and you've got these wild fiddle music, and people would walk miles after working all day to a barn and be able to touch each other and just There's a fiddler in Edinburgh named Tim MacDonald. He was in Chicago, and he plays a Baroque violin. And if you want to know what it was like, listen to Tim play music. I mean, he just go nuts.
Okay, so we're going to wind it up now, but we've had an audience all the way through, so thank you for joining us. And with that, Andrew Calhoun, we could speak all day, Andrew, but I'm aware you're on your way to Inverurie, so there's a quest on today, isn't there? Today itself, you've got a show to attend tonight?
No, I don't have a show.
You're meeting with some folks?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to attend a show. Actually, a singer named Scott Gardner. And there's Erin Farley. I don't know if she's still a librarian at Dundee Central, but she did a massive research project for me out of the goodness of her heart a few years ago. And she's a storyteller, so I need to say thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Erin Farley.
Well, thanks. Well, I'm going to thank you as well, Andrew.
Thank you.
That was about the most interesting cup of coffee I've had in my life. and so much to think about. And and gratitude to you for. Sometimes it's the outside eye that sees further than the inside eye.
You know, the best thing that was written about Burns's prosody was by a Swedish woman named Katarina Garson-Roos, wrote a very intelligent thesis about how he matched the imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, carrying the spirit of Robbie Burns all the way around Scotland just now, and you've been meeting some interesting people through the trail as well, I would imagine.
Well, I sang at a pub session in Dunbar. I mean, I'm so down a rabbit hole, I don't even know if people are interested, but the musicians were very interested in the research and the different melodies.
Yeah.
I thought when I learned Old Lang Syne that people would say, oh, I like the other tune better. And no one ever has. They just nod their heads. Oh, that's the tune. Yeah.
Well, keeping the spirit alive. And that old song, I mean, everybody, it's the one bit of Scottishness that everybody knows about.
Yeah.
So, and fair play to the bard for that anyway.
What people don't know is that Burns wrote the phrase, man's inhumanity to man. Everyone knows the phrase.
Oh, is that, he coined that phrase?
Man was made to mourn is the song. And again, the early draft from the Commonplace book is 100 times better than the one he published in his book of poems.
Yeah. Excellent. On that note, and profound note as well, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
And thank you for viewing, guys. Listen, if you found that interesting, and you know anybody that might be interested, particularly in with a young voice or a young Scottish voice that would like to get involved with Andrew, get in touch. Fine, I'll put his email. I haven't got it ready, but I will put his email on this as a note in the next couple of moments, actually, once we've finished the stream. So thank you, Andrew. Good luck with your quest.
Thanks.
I shall be following it with interest.
Good.
Much obliged.